Welcome everyone to this month's Orange Spotlight webinar. I'm so excited this month. We're doing things a little bit different because we're doing a pre-recorded video because I am literally on vacation, but we are also talking about Vacation Bible School, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. I just love VBS. Just as a reminder for those of you that are watching this, we will have a live strategy session on Thursday, April 1st. So we want to encourage you to register for that, and the link is in the description if you're able to attend. But as I said, we're talking about Vacation Bible School this month, what Orange has to offer, and just to get it on your radar that this is coming up. My position here at Territorial Headquarters is the Christian Education Director for Youth Outreach, which includes Vacation Bible School. And I just believe in when done right, when done quality, it can be such an effective tool that we use to connect with youth and families, to grow our reach into the community and to start establishing and building relationships. More than anything, it's an opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus with families that we come into contact with. So I'm really excited because this month we actually have 3 different interviews. We have Jackie has interviewed Amy Fenton, who is the director of VBS curriculum at Orange. We'll be hearing from Captains Norman and Denesia Polusca, who are the divisional youth and candidate secretaries in the Kansas Western Missouri division. And then I interviewed Lisa Jordan, who is the youth outreach director at Oakbrook Terrace Corps. So I'm super excited for you to hear about some of these innovative ideas, some creative ideas to get your juices flowing as you start to focus in on Vacation Bible School.
Hi friends, thank you so much for joining us on our next Orange webinar, and we are going to be talking about all things VBS, Vacation Bible School. We love it. It drives us insane. It's a lot of work, but we know it's absolutely worth it. And I am so excited because I have our Orange VBS director here, Amy Fenton. I can say from experience, she's the best person at Orange. She's smart, she's funny, she's amazing, and we are absolutely lucky to have her. So Amy, why don't you say hello?
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Why do I feel like you might say that about all your guests?
I will neither confirm nor deny this, but it is a useful tactic. But I have to say, I do love everyone at Orange. Like, it's a little bit weird how much I love everyone. So
Me too. Me too.
You are one of my top. You do know this.
Yes. Well, you're one of my top. So there you go.
See, this is why I love you. We're going to jump right in with some questions that we have about VBS. Because I don't know if you know about 2020, but it was hard.
What?
It was not great.
Yeah, it was not
good. Kind of changed the game for everything. How has COVID-19, I'm sure there's going to be a new pandemic on the horizon at some point. How have these things changed how VBS is run, what it looks like, and what it could be?
Sure. You know, last year, ironically, when the world shut down, I was in Disney. And I quickly had to get a flight home and get back because we started noticing, oh goodness, okay, everybody in our VBS world, all of our churches and our VBS community, they're all starting to panic. Like, how are we going to pull this off? So it was really good in making us, COVID made us really rethink how we do VBS, what we offer for VBS. So starting last summer, we started working on how do you take VBS outside the walls of the church, which I think is a great thing. So it just made us rethink, how do we do VBS on a more personal level, in smaller groups, outside the walls of the church, at parks, in backyards, you know, around town. How do we get creative with this? And how do we take VBS to kids who can't leave their home? You know, because even outside of a pandemic, there are kids who are immunocompromised or, you know, can't be a part of something like this. So I love that it made us think, how do we do things smarter and better to truly reach every kid, no matter their circumstances?
I love it. So one thing about the Salvation Army, you know, I've been telling you all about my home church, is we're a little bit more on the smaller side intentionally. We're really community focused. And sometimes when we look at the orange material, it is a little overwhelming, to say the least. What would you say to someone who thinks orange might not necessarily be for the small church, especially orange VBS not being for a smaller church?
Yeah, you know, I love that you asked me that, because the one thing I have learned is how many of our churches are smaller churches. So I think before I started doing VBS, because I work with a lot of our larger churches, I didn't realize just how many really fit that mold. So it made us rethink how we were packaging our VBS. So now when you buy orange VBS, within your package, you get a compact version that we have designed just for you, just for the smaller church. We're assuming you might have maybe as few as 8 or 10 kids, and maybe 1 or 2 volunteers running the whole thing. And so we created a separate folder, a separate version that makes it really, really easy for some of your churches, for example, to jump right in and do an amazing VBS without having to dig through all the things, because it can be overwhelming. I tell people, I'm like, when you first open your VBS, you're going to be like, what is all of this? It's like a pile of VBS goodness that you have to sort through.
And also, I know you have a VBS Facebook group, which I kind of lurk just to look and see, and you're incredibly active on there. Other orange people are incredibly active on there, but I love our partners that share what has worked, what they've adapted, what they've changed, swapped ideas. So that's also really great resources. Don't just come to us for answers, as great as we are, but our partners are figuring it out too, and they're sharing information as well.
Yeah, it's such a sweet community, because people can ask for help and they get it almost instantaneously. Or they want to bounce an idea off of someone and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing VBS in backyards this summer instead of in our building. What are you doing? And, you know, I'll go back an hour later and there'll be 15 replies. So yeah, it's a really sweet community just to network, to share ideas, to steal ideas from other people, which I'm all about. I'm all about borrowing other people's ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in the small church, a lot of those are the small church on there having those conversations. So absolutely, it's great for a small church.
I love it. So another big thing about the Army is we are all over the world, all over the country, from Texas to New York to Washington. So we have a lot of different groups all over the country. So churches are different, culture is different, socioeconomic backgrounds are quite a bit different. What are some best practices for churches that need to adapt the material? Because we never want to just take something from a box and run with it. We always want to adapt it to our context. What are some best ways that they can do that?
Right. And we encourage that. So we would tell you that's absolutely the right thing to do. We make everything downloadable and everything editable. And for that very reason. And we try to be very budget conscious with some of our activities in almost everything we do. So for example, this year, there's a whole separate folder we've added this year that's called virtual. Within that virtual folder, there are activities for small group time, activities for crafts and for games and things like that. And we went back and rewrote those, assuming that you would only have things you might have access to in your home anyway, like a paper plate or a cup or a pillow, or, you know, so that could be the uber budget friendly option. Then within our crafts for each day, we give you 3 choices. Within our small group, we give you 4 choices. And in all of those choices, we will say, okay, here's one that, you know, it's going to use things you already have in your resource room that are pretty much standard things you'd use every Sunday. And then there's also for the church that's like, hey, we have $30,000 to spend on VBS. We also give a more elaborate option. So we try to give lots of choices, lots of options to help fit your needs wherever you fall on that spectrum.
Yes, I always like to say it's just like a choose your own adventure. Or I know one of our orange specialists say orange is like a grocery store. You get to choose your ingredients to make the meal that works for your kids. So it's like a VBS smorgasbord of ingredients, and you get to pick and choose. what works for you. I love that. That's fantastic.
I'm stealing that. I love that.
I know. I stole it from one of our coworkers. So, as I said, don't reinvent the wheel, guys. Just steal it from someone else. That's what I love. Someone else has already come across the same problem you're having and it's kind of fixed it. Crowdsource as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Save yourself time, save yourself budget, save yourself worry. Just always ask questions.
Absolutely.
VBS is usually 5 days. Sometimes people do a 1 day, but it always feels like there's never enough time.
Yeah.
Even the long day of VBS always feels like we're scrambling. What are some best ways to maximize the time that we have using your Orange VBS?
I'm a planner, so I love to think through the things that could eat up our time ahead of time. I love to think through doing registration beforehand. A lot of people try to do registration day of VBS and it's chaotic and it eats up a lot of the time on the first day. And you look up and you're like, where did the first hour go? It's already done and we're just getting kids to classes. So thinking through some of those things that you can do ahead of time to start VBS from the moment a child arrives the first day. But also I am just such a firm believer in small groups, which is why when you ask me about small churches, I think that's such a blessing because I love those small group times. I think that's really how you can maximize your time is be really intentional with the small groups that kids are in and have a consistent volunteer there that's going to hang out with them all week and pour into them. And if I had to pick and choose, like I would make sure I do large group, small group, and something fun. If you have to scale back your VBS or do it in a shorter time, to me, large group, because that's where they are going to hear the Bible story, and small group, that's where they're going to unpack in a fun way how it matters in their life. So those two things, please don't cut those. Like that's going to maximize your time, making sure you keep those two elements in there and let everything else just kind of fall in place around that, I would say.
I love that. So one big thing for the Salvation Army, we use VBS, and I'm sure other churches do as well, as an outreach. And so it kind of gets to that end of the week and we have to figure out how do we extend, if it's Monday through Friday, how do we get our kids back on a Sunday? Do you have any good ideas for some good follow-up? And what I really mean is how do we move that 1 week where it's almost like a short-term 1 week? How do we move that into our main strategy for our church of long-term wanting to get these kids involved?
Yes. And of course, that's our goal. I mean, right. That's why we do what we do. We want to see kids and families in our communities who are not involved in any kind of ministry in any way. We want them to come and be a part. So we've thought that through a lot. And our tagline when we started this was don't give kids a great week, just a great week of VBS, but give them a great summer. So with Orange VBS, for example, we do the same theme for the summer and it matches VBS. It's not the same Bible stories, but for that window of time, it's the same theme so that you can say to a kid on Friday of VBS, hey, did you have a great week with your small group? Yes, we got really close. We had a great time. I think these could be some of my best friends. Great, because we're actually going to keep it going all summer long. It lets you brand for a summer adventure instead of just a VBS week. And I think there's just no better hook to get kids in than to say this same fun and excitement and energy, we're going to continue it. You're still going to see these fun decorations up. You're still going to see some of these faces around looking for you. So I think that's one of the most important things is putting kids with small groups of other kids their age that they might connect with and love. And my goal is always that they would be waking their parents up on Sunday morning saying, I can't miss. My leader said they're going to be looking for me. Mom, get out of bed. We got to go. We got to go. That's when you know you're winning with your leaders. So keep that element of fun, keep them connected to those kids. And then if they are in a small group with a great leader, make sure that leader is doing something to follow up with those parents, whether it's getting that parent's cell phone number and just texting them, tell them something amazing, even if you have the worst kid. Tell them something amazing. Not that you would, but tell them something amazing about that kid. And say, we're actually going to keep meeting. Our small group's still meeting, and it's going to continue on Sunday mornings for the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And we'd love for you to keep coming.
I love that. It's so good even for the kids who Sundays at a church can be really overwhelming and can be really nerve-wracking for kids who've never been. So if they kind of recognize the flow that was large group and small group, and then when they go on Sunday and they recognize that same flow, it's that same kind of understanding, even seeing the same people on the videos from the so-and-so show, that kind of helps ease that fear of Sundays is such a big thing, and now makes it like, no, it's just a continuation of what you've already known.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So again, with the 2020 being the year that we almost don't want to mention ever again, there were a lot of new ideas that popped up. I loved, again, looking at the Facebook group and just seeing what people were trying to pull off and different ideas that they had. What were some great new ideas that you have seen that have worked really well for churches?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but I think the best things that I saw come out of this was it was just how much people took their church outside the walls of their building. And I think that need is going to continue. I think our TSA partners do such a great job with that already, which, that's why we are so honored to partner in this way. But I think it's so important to continue to figure out how you can take the church to people, because I do think it's going to be a while before some people, not all people, but some people are going to feel comfortable coming back to church. But the great thing about being intentional and taking the church outside the walls too, is it lets people who have decided in their mind for whatever reason that they're never going to go back to church, to get a taste of it in a really safe environment. So some of the best ideas I saw were my friend Kevin in Virginia. They had front yard kids clubs. So they just did these big parties in front yards and neighborhoods, and they equipped families. They had a background checked volunteer team come to that house. But they just said to families, hey, will you open up your home, and we're going to make a party in the front yard and invite your neighborhood, invite your neighbors. John Huber in Kansas, he partnered with the city and talked to the parks and rec teams and said, can we use your parks and do these free events in the parks, and we'll make it a party and invite kids and families. And people did drive-through parades. They did the fun things that we've seen on Facebook. We've all seen all the things, but it's just really thinking how to get outside your walls. And I think that's been the greatest thing I've seen come from COVID, is we've taken what we were doing and so passionate about inside our church, and it's made it easier to share with the world.
Yeah. And it's almost like we've been given permission to just try. That's what that's like, everyone's thinking, oh, this is working. Who knows what works here doesn't work there. So we've almost had permission to cast out that net and try any idea at this point. And families are so forgiving. Kids, I've noticed that kids will tell you when you've done something wrong, but they'll come back just to see what new thing you do. But they will be very honest when they don't like something. But this is the time to try something new, try new plans, connect with other churches that are doing the same things as you. See them as coworkers, not competition. If there's 3 churches doing VBS on the same week, join forces. You need volunteers. They have them. Join together and have a bigger impact on your community. I think COVID has kind of allowed us to see each other more as coworkers, as people who want to lift each other up, and let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. I'm glad you said that, because I have had a few communities even do that. Like several Orange churches, they've said, hey, we're all Orange and we all realize we're neighbors. And so we're going to partner together to put on this experience collectively for our whole city, which I love.
I mean, if you have a tiny budget and they have a larger budget, make friends.
Be friends with them.
Make friends, and if they were like, oh, our VBS happens to be the week after yours, do you have any extras that we could have? Like,
exactly.
Make friends in ministry. Do what you need to do.
Share.
Exactly. Share. Maybe not steal the supplies, but share the supplies.
Yes, absolutely.
Amy, I want to thank you so much. These are great ideas. And I love that you are constantly and consistently thinking of ways to expand VBS and to make it better for our partners. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And we are going to have a strategy session on April 1st at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern Time. And we're going to get more deep into what a particular church might need to cover, really good central ideas. If you have specific questions, anyone, please come. Amy is, I want to say, a genius, because she really is, and can really give you some great insight. Also, if you would love to try our Orange VBS and it's a little out of your price range, we do have a discount code. So feel free to email me at jackie@thinkorange.com. I can also pass along some other VBS resources. But thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we will see you on April 1st.
Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm Captain Denesia Polusca, and I'm currently stationed in KWM as a divisional youth and candidate secretary.
And I'm Captain Norman Polusca. I'm there as well in Kansas City. I'm the divisional candidate secretary and youth secretary. Yeah.
Thanks. And how long have you guys been in KWM?
We got appointed here in 2019, so just a year and a half. Yeah.
So your first full summer
Right.
last year, which was the unusual summer of all.
Yeah,
things.
it was a COVID-19 summer.
And in your appointment, were you able to do any in-person camps, day camps for the summer, or did you have to do something else?
You know, we had to do something else. We thought about it, but our campgrounds was used as a COVID-19 shelter for homeless people. So because they didn't use the entire camp, but because they were there, we couldn't use the camp for anything else. So it became a haven for people who are experiencing homelessness as well as COVID-19 diagnosis. So that was a very impactful, powerful ministry. It was stressful at times for the camp directors, but at the end of the day, when you saw how many people we were able to help to come alongside during this really crisis time, because just hearing that diagnosis, it's scary, because you just never know what would happen. So that was a powerful ministry for the campgrounds at that time. And so we recognized, we had to do something else. Because Norman and I both agreed that it could not be a summer where we just go to the office every day, that we had to find a way to intentionally impact kids, because even though we were going through a crisis, everybody else was going through a crisis. So we thought we needed to come alongside them. And so one of our divisional steps goal, I know it's a territorial requirement, but a divisional steps goal was that all corps would have a VBS. We had struggled with that previously, and it just became one of our steps goal. And we thought, okay, our purpose as divisional youth leaders is to come alongside corps. So let's come alongside corps and help them accomplish this goal.
I do want to hear a little bit about your ministry team that went, and how you put that together, and how they went around to the different division or corps in your division.
Right. So, one of the hardest things we had to do in 2020 was to call a whole bunch of young people that we told we were going to hire for the summer and say we weren't doing camp. And so we built our ministry team from those candidates. What was our deciding factor? We wanted salvationists, and we wanted salvationists who were already 18. So we didn't just pick those who applied to be counselors. We just kind of ran the gamut, and we tried to make a diverse team of young adults who would be passionate about engaging kids, for ministry. So that's kind of like how we chose the team. Norman, you want to say anything else?
Yeah, and I think what was different too, there was this idea that they weren't coming to us, and that was, a departure from the camping ministry. We were going to the kids in their respective communities. So, and we were sleeping in different places, our schedules would be very different from this camp schedule. So in addition to those qualities that Denesia mentioned, being a salvationist, you could say loving the Lord, doing kids ministry, but we also wanted flexibility too, because we recognized this would be a trying time, you know, and there was some risks involved in going out. But thankfully, too, at that time, the spread was not. Uh, you could say it was not as widespread as it is even right now. Yeah.
Because you did the same VBS in multiple locations, so you saw it in different kind of play out with different communities. VBS curriculum is written for large scale megachurches all the way down to small communities that are having 3 kids that come. And so can it work everywhere? What should we keep? What should we not keep? I think is really fascinating.
Yeah, I'll say something, and Denisha, if you want to jump in, that's fine too. One of the things I observed, actually, I didn't feel as if there was anything to be taken out of the curriculum. What we saw was that the team got better. So as they taught the lessons at the very beginning, you could see, even though they had each had their outlines, you know, they were reading a lot and just trying to say word for word what the lesson says. But that wasn't working with kids, you know, because you needed to be much more engaging and natural, you could say, in a sense. So my observation is that as time went by, it wasn't just, oh, this is a curriculum, but rather this is a way to explain the gospel. This is a way to explain Jesus to kids on a level that they get. And the more we did it, then the more natural, you could say, the language became of communicating that reality to kids. And I think the team also internalized that message. So I think it got more and more powerful because they were repeating it. So the repetition became an asset rather than a liability. Yeah.
And for me, just disclaimer, I wasn't at all the places, but when I got pictures and all of that, or videos, I think one of the things is the keep vid video, the ones where, I think I call it the same thing, where they had to go out and take pictures as a group to describe the story. Mm-hmm. Kids really engaged in that. They loved it. Everybody wanted to participate wherever they were, whichever location. And then the songs, just really, you know, and when the truth is, when you think about what you're talking about, COVID and not singing, and, you know, we took a risk in going ahead with that, but we made sure that there was social distance, you know, the kids were wearing masks, and we did it at all locations. And we had no COVID breakouts, we had a successful season. Nobody on the team got COVID either. I mean, God was really good to us.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that, the songs, because I just think music is universal. Even the kids that aren't really singers, but they like to do the actions, or kids that don't want to do the actions, but like to just sit and listen. So it just can be that universal thing.
And with the songs, the message, they learn it and it goes with them. Because, you know, a year later, they're singing songs. I remember our daughter, who is a sophomore in high school right now, when she was a first grader, there was this one VBS that really got her, and she still sings the song. Think about that. Years later, and she still sings that song. So yeah, it's powerful.
So it's kind of segueing into that, like following through. I know that when you went to the Corps, it was like a 1 week or a one-time event, but and you shared a little bit with the Corps officers, but have you heard from the other locations? Like, has that been a way or a successful connection of outreach in the community, or were you seeing just the Corps kids, and maybe because last summer we weren't able to be together beforehand, that's what they needed? But just talk a little bit about follow-up and like the long-lasting effects of, or conclusions, results of VBS.
Well, I think we can mention 2 Corps. I'll talk about El Dorado, and then Norman, you can talk about Wichita West Orchard. Sounds good? So El Dorado had no kids, like literally no kids. They have a flourishing social ministry, and so they invited kids to come. So we went in to do this VBS for them. And as a result, they started doing junior soldier prep. Yes. Yes, Peggy. That was like, I'm like, oh. So, I mean, what else? You know, we had strategy sessions with the DC talking about how we can help them, you know, really start youth ministry there. Cause, you know, they were starting from ground up and these officers were doing a lot of other things. And we just did VBS, and kids recognized, hey, this is a place I can come.
That's awesome.
Met Jesus, and they started Junior Soldier Prep. Norman, you want to talk about Wichita West Orchard?
Yeah, and Wichita West Orchard, I mean, they have the facility, but they didn't have any ongoing youth programs. So when we did VBS, we came and they were able to partner with a daycare, and the daycare brought all their kids to VBS. Even the staff from the daycare came and they participated in the program. And one of the interesting things that happened is that on the second day, the van from the daycare broke down, and they called us. They say, "Hey, we don't think we're gonna make it," and we're like, "We have a van. We'll just bring our van." So you know, so I think it's also like this army. I think in the army we do have a mentality to say we can push the boundaries. We will do whatever is necessary, you know, to spread the gospel in unconventional ways. And so as a result of that, Wichita West Orchard now has regular youth programs. I think it was just you could say, a push in the right direction to say, hey, see what can happen, you know, or to hear the sounds of kids in your building. It does something to you. You know, I think you don't go through that and then you go back to nothing and be fine with it. If that's your passion, it was just a push in the right direction, you know, and they even looked at a learning center. So character building, those things are happening now, but I think VBS was just a push for them in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a catalyst, and they had also just have they have a youth worker. He's not a GSI, but a youth worker that kind of helped get that going. So those are two cores where we saw like right away, wow.
Oh, thank you guys. I love talking about, like, you hit on all the things that I was hoping to talk, that you would have that success with, because I think like on paper, we're like, see, VBS can do this, but to hear, you know, that there is the long-term effects, that it can be something that people are coming in feeling connected, but then even the leadership development, I think, is such a neat part of VBS ministry, because it's a high stake because it has to do with the kingdom, but it's a low stake because it's not, you know, a year-long commitment, and you don't have to have really a background in teaching or, you know, group management. You can just say, I'm going to give this a go. Right. And I love that you had success with your young adults as they started to understand it's not just reading a script, but it's, you know, internalizing the message and then being able to relay it to the different age groups is so cool. So I'm so glad.
One of the things I'll say is that we were able to provide over 110 hours of Christian education. And when you think long-term impact, for me, is that 41 kids gave their lives to Christ. So during COVID, for something like that to happen, you know, for kids to be exposed to the gospel, in a sense, there is an impact we might never see, but we know it's already been made, you know. So I think that's also something to celebrate as well. Yeah.
Thanks for that reminder. I think that's so important. But Lisa, tell us just a little bit about what corps you're at, what your role there is, and then we'll kind of jump into talking about Vacation Bible School.
So I am from the Oakbrook Terrace Corps in the Metropolitan Chicago area, and have been here a lot of years. I'm not even going to tell you how many. And I'm the Youth Development Director. So it really is both my passion and my privilege to serve the youth and families of not just our corps, but our community as best we can.
So I want to jump in because Oakbrook Terrace uses the VBS curriculum in a traditional and then some non-traditional ways. And we kind of want to just give some ideas for people in the field to look at how this can be used as an outreach or as a community, a connector. So talk a little bit, you extend Vacation Bible School curriculum almost through the whole summer. Can you talk a little bit about how that works at your corps?
Yep. So at OBT, we use VBS a lot of different ways. So I'm going to start with day camp, which I think is the part that you're alluding to. We do have a day camp over the summer, and it has also evolved over the years. It started out kind of as a 3-day kind of, 9 to 3 kind of a little bit of a program just to get to know our community and our neighbors and what their needs were. And then as we did that and we really saw their needs, we've expanded the ages that we serve. We've expanded the number of days that we have. We've added a before and after care program, again, in response to the needs in our community and what we're hearing from our families that would be helpful to them. And so that's what that's really what we want to do, is partner with families and provide for them. So our day camp has also been anywhere from 6 weeks to 8 weeks, again, depending on how different things fall and how the dates fall in the summer. But we're primarily a 7-week program. So what we do with a VBS then is we choose a VBS and we use every part of it, because basically what we're doing is we're taking a day of VBS and turning it into a week of VBS. So we're using the Bible verse, and we're using the Bible story, and we're maybe adding another Bible story that's the same theme for the week, to get enough material in. We're using that theme heavily in terms of decorating our building, in terms of what our snacks are, in terms of what each class does. It all relates to the theme, the overall theme. And then, as you know, with VBSs, each day kind of has its own point or big idea or something. And so kind of using that. And then, of course, again, having wonderful creative staff people over the years to kind of embellish those different aspects of the VBS program. But the crux of that and the base of what we use for our day camps then, that are 7 weeks, is a VBS curriculum, and we just get every ounce of whatever we can out of it.
So I know at OBT, in addition to the day camp, you still do a traditional or a one-off VBS that is more outreach focused into the community. Can you talk a little bit first about how you have done it maybe in the last couple of years, and then last year, because of COVID, we kind of looked at things and brainstormed of what could be successful, and talk about that.
Right. So we have done VBSs a lot of different ways over the many years that it has been in my life. We've tried a spring break VBS. We've tried to make VBS like the first week of day camp, or like the 4th of July week of day camp, and try to do something different with it. Our day camp is primarily families from our community. I would say maybe 40%, maybe even less than that, are kids that would be part of our regular congregation and come all the time. So the difference with VBS is, instead of having it in our building the last number of years, we've gone out of our building to have it someplace else. So it started with going to 3 different parks for 3 different weeks, and flyering and communicating in that community, again, still close to our core, but 3 different suburbs actually, kind of to do that. And then we eventually kind of pared that down to just one park in Villa Park that we go to, and we had VBS there the whole week. Again, different kids, but easy, because it's like, instead of asking them to come to us, we're going to them. And that had been a good model, but we were kind of starting to see it break down a little bit and feel that we really did need to have some kind of a change, but hadn't really settled on what that was until a pandemic forced us to think outside the box and look at things a little bit differently. And I will credit Peggy for having gone to a seminar that talked about VBS a little bit. And so, again, real collaborative effort on our part at our core to kind of come up with, okay, so what could that look like for us this year? And it turns out that it was such a good model for us that we want to try it going forward a little bit. So our VBS plan for this year is that we will have, and it's what we did last year as well, we asked families from within our congregation to be willing to invite their friends and neighbors and whatever to come to VBS in their front yard or backyard. And we built a big sign and had, again, flyers, but we also did an online registration so that we had a sense. Now, last year we had to limit that to 10 kids, and we had to be a little bit more cautious about where we could do it because of being able to be distanced and what kind of activities we could do so that there wasn't any overlapping of touching things or being too close together. But anyway, we, so then that family was just responsible for that one night or one afternoon or whatever. We had some on evenings, we had a Sunday afternoon, we had a Saturday morning scheduled, which because of rain got rescheduled. But again, it just gave a lot more opportunity and opened up a lot more space and time to be able to connect. And then you've got a family right in your neighborhood who, A, they know are believers, B, they know are interested in their kids' well-being, C, they already have a relationship that's ongoing with, and so opportunities for many more conversations and opportunities to really, then invite them to be part of our church and what else is going on. So so over the summer then, and that was also great because then it could work for whenever it was convenient for that family. Over the summer then we did 5 different nights instead of the traditional 5 days in a row, where we were able to do VBS in 5 different locations. And it was really awesome. And actually we have seen kids from that who now we're kind of loosely connected, but we see them now at Sunday school every week. And that has been really just an amazing thing. It has opened a door with some of those families that I'm not sure would have happened another way. So we're really excited to try this model in a year where there's a little more wiggle room, not quite as much because we still are fighting this pandemic, but yeah, to have that opportunity. And then there's also a level of ownership that goes to your core families because now they have a part in this. Now we also developed a leadership team so that the family was really just responsible to host the VBS night. They didn't have to have snacks. They didn't have to have table wipes. They didn't have to teach the Bible lesson. They just had to invite their kids' friends, and we showed up and did the rest with a team. And so that also allowed for more people to be involved who might not be in a position to host or might not have kids the right age that they would have those same connections, but then they could be involved because they could teach Bible one night, or they could teach craft one day, or they could do the recreation time. So it kind of just also opened it up to really be a really nice core family activity, event, project, all those kinds of things.
And we had a family that they didn't have a yard because they live in an apartment, right? But then they worked with their apartment complex or a park local, like to be the host.
Yep. Yeah, so we actually ended up in a park across the street from their house, which was very interesting because we were away from like where there would have been playground equipment or anything. That we were just kind of like in a little part of it, but it did definitely spark the interest of people who were passing by and people who were out there. And then the woman who was hosting that had conversations with those people as they stopped and asked questions. And that was really kind of a sweet thing too.
Yeah, just kind of to wrap it up, I'm going to spring this on you. So I'm sorry I didn't prepare in advance, but what does your follow-up look like when we're talking about outreach activities, connecting with families in the community, either through the day camp program or with the VBS? What does your core do, or what do you do to follow up, to stay connected with families that we connected with in one of these events?
So again, that has looked different over the years, and it kind of evolves based on a lot of different things. But one of the things that we try to do is always have a next thing that we're inviting them to be part of. That is also encouraging them then to be able to come to church or Sunday school. And I think we have to have a broader view of of what success in that area looks like. Like I'm most concerned that these kids are hearing the gospel, having an opportunity to respond to that, and then knowing Jesus as their savior, than I am that their butt's in my pew. Now, their butt in my pew gives me an opportunity, gives us different opportunities for discipling and for teaching and those kinds of things that we obviously absolutely want to have. But if that doesn't work out for them, but they know Jesus, they're going to find that somewhere in their life, right? So I wish we had a little bit more of a structured program to do that follow-up, but I also find that the organic part of it is a little bit a little bit better for us right now, at least, because it gives us a chance to respond to them and to follow up them in a way that works for them, not in a way that works for us.
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of trying to see what do they need, and see if we can be part of meeting that need.
Yeah, shifting the focus away from being program driven to relationship driven. One of the things though that I love about VBS is it gives the starting point of a relationship, right? Like you have to have a touch point. I can't build a relationship if I don't know you. And so we can use the program of VBS, day camp, other activities at the Corps, not because we are focused on that program, but we're focused on connecting with families, kids, and then going from there. What does that relationship look like? And I think that's what's important.
Right. And the relationship is going to be the thing that keeps them coming back. There's no amount of programming or anything that we can do that's going to be so amazing that that's going to be the thing that they want to be part of. It's really going to be those relationships and like you said, that part of it. And then I feel really strongly about the discipleship part of it. It's not, as we build a relationship, then we're able to begin to bring them along in their faith. And that's really what we want to do. And that's going to look different for each family and each person, right? In terms of how that happens. But you're absolutely right. It's for sure a relational based thing.
Yeah. So thank you again, everyone. I was really excited about having a webinar specifically focusing in on Vacation Bible School. Thank you for your flexibility and patience as we changed the way that we produced this. Rather than being able to go live today, we made it so that it is a recorded webinar. I hope that you were able to get some information. For those of you that can and want to attend, please make sure that you attend that strategy session. But more than anything, just know that we are praying for you as you move forward into programming for this summer. Every Corps and every community is so unique in the needs and how they are serving the people and the families that they come into contact with. And so we know as you move forward, you have unique challenges, you have unique opportunities, you have unique families that you want to meet their needs. And so just be mindful of the fact that this isn't a cookie cutter program. You don't have to do VBS the exact same way as another Corps or another church in your community is doing it. But I also want to encourage you to take advantage of the community of leaders that you are a part of, the community that we have created here as within the Orange webinars, the community of leaders that we have on Facebook of Thinking Orange and the Salvation Army, or we have our Central Youth Network Facebook page as well. You have your divisional youth departments who are so rich with ideas and wisdom and experiences, and so willing to come alongside and help partner with you. If you're feeling really stuck or overwhelmed, reach out to one another, reach out to us, to Jackie, myself, or your divisional youth secretaries, so that we can help come alongside you so that you can feel strengthened and empowered to do something so exciting. As you look forward to this summer, please know that we're praying for you, and we are so excited to see what God has in store as we continue to reach out into the world to share his love with others through VBS.